Watch and burn.
Hey everybody. So tonight I am wondering, what do you think is Guns N' Roses' best record from their painfully short discography? I am going to completely omit Chinese Democracy just because it's really like, a quarter of a band. The only original member involved in Chinese Democracy was, of course, Axl Rose. And I think really that record, the songwriting process turned out to be more interesting than the music itself. And it just doesn't feel right to include that here. And I hated every song on that record. So, but despite that, apparently The General came from those sessions, and I love The General. Like, that's like one of the best songs Guns N' Roses have ever done. But yeah, so what do you think Guns N' Roses' best record is? I know there are the purists out there who feel that Guns N' Roses really only have two records or one and a half records by way of Appetite for Destruction and Lies. And then the band ends for them there because they absolutely hated the direction that they went in with Use Your Illusion 1. And then especially with it getting even more dramatic and more over the top and even more like cinematic in a sense with Use Your Illusion 2. So I know a lot of the people felt that they lost more than they gained with those records because they lost that sort of punk edge that Appetite had. And Appetite did have like the energy and the attitude on Appetite. I like that energy more than the energy that I get from the Use Your Illusions. The Use Your Illusions felt like it was the band's egos were beginning to get out of control, and especially Axl's need for the bigness to be everywhere. Like he wanted to start working with bigger and bigger orchestras, and he wanted to add more piano, and everything just started to get more orchestral in a sense. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I know at this point too, by the time that they were touring for the both the Use Your Illusions, the band was in rough shape. And I remember Matt Storm had done some interviews a ways after. Well after. I think he was in Velvet Revolver when I read this, and he said that he was trying his best to like hold the band together, despite the fact that they were pretty much falling apart by the time both the Use Your Illusions had been released. And now I've completely lost my train of thought. I was making a point with that, but I don't care. I give up. I lose my train of thought so much I can't be bothered. But nevertheless, I was saying something there and I don't know what it was. But yeah, so I mean, oh, I remember now. I prefer the sort of raw punk rock sort of, like there's this frenetic energy that comes from Appetite. Like with songs like Welcome to the Jungle and then like Mr. Brownstone and My Michelle and Anything Goes, Rocket Queen, it feels dirty. Like these songs feel like slimy and real, and they feel like they're like out of the gutter. And it's like, I don't know, I identify with that more because it just feels like that kind of energy is something that I could harness myself a hell of a lot faster than I would ever be able to find and harness the energy that it took for them to pull off like a song like Estranged, for example. It just, there's something so stripped down and so like, oh, it's like exposed tissue about like the first record where it's just everything's out, everything's left hanging, like everything's out on display, and they just don't give a fuck. And they hadn't really found much success because I know when the record was first released, it wasn't the best received, and it took a while. I think it took over a year or so before it started to get the traction that it needed for it to become Appetite for Destruction, the Appetite for Destruction. I mean, that record's perfect. Like there isn't a bad song on Appetite for Destruction. I don't like every song off the Use Your Illusions, okay? But Appetite is perfect. Like, absolutely perfect. And Lies is so much fun. Lies has to be their best designed record. I love this sort of National Enquirer look that it has. Half-naked chick inside got me in trouble in grade 5. And I'll always think of that whenever I think of Guns N' Roses' Lies. And their live versions of, what was it, Mamakin and Move to the City, and Reckless Life was on there, and Nice Boys, I think. That record's amazing too, but it almost doesn't count because it's more of an EP. But what do you guys think? No, you know what? Fuck this. I'm getting out of here. So what do you guys think? What do you think is Guns N' Roses' best record? Are you a fan of the Appetite days and you don't want anything to do with the Use Your Illusions? Or do you feel that the Use Your Illusions upped everything so considerably that they can't be forgotten because they're just too big and too awesome? I don't know. Don't forget to put it in the comments. But most importantly, don't forget that you guys are amazing. I'm getting out of here. Have a good night.